You didn't find this message by accident. It found you. Something deep within you called it forth. And now it stands as a mirror to what you already feel, but cannot fully explain. The ground beneath your life is trembling. Patterns that once defined you are breaking apart. You sense it in your relationships, your thoughts, even in the silence between your breaths. Your old self is about to die, not in fear, but in awakening. You are chosen for this passage, and if these signs are appearing, do not look away. Don't skip. Destiny is speaking. You are standing at the edge of an invisible threshold, and though you may not fully see it with your eyes, your soul has already felt the tremor, that strange unease you have carried lately, that restlessness that has no clear name, is not a mistake. It is the pulse of endings. Everything in your life that feels heavy, repetitive, or strangely hollow is not here to punish you. It is here to show you that its time is over. The situations that keep returning, the patterns you swore you had broken, yet somehow find yourself reliving again, they are not proof of your failure. They are evidence of completion. They keep appearing because they are ready to dissolve, ready to release you, ready to be buried so that something larger can rise in their place. Think about the spaces in your life where you feel stuck. The job that once gave you stability but now feels like a cage. The relationship that used to inspire but now feels like a weight you drag. The habits, the small rituals of escape, scrolling endlessly, numbing yourself with distraction, that no longer soothe but leave you emptier than before. These are the ghosts of your old self, echoes of an identity that cannot accompany you to where you are going. You are not failing because they no longer fit. You are simply outgrowing them. The discomfort you feel is not punishment. It is growth stretching against its old skin. You might think, why is this happening to me? Why do I keep losing the things I thought I needed? But the truth is, it is not happening to you. It is happening for you. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with stone. At first it gave you strength, resistance, a sense of purpose in the struggle. But now you've reached a mountain too high to climb with that weight. Life is not stealing from you. Life is asking you to put the stones down, because the path ahead requires wings, not birds. And I know it feels disorienting. When the things you once trusted begin to fall apart, the old self panics. The ego scrambles, desperate to rebuild the walls, to cling to the familiar even when the familiar is suffocating. That is why endings feel like death, because for the old self it is death. But listen closely. You are not dying, only the mask is. The truth of you, the essence of you, cannot be destroyed. You are not losing yourself, you are shedding. Like a tree releasing its leaves in autumn, what falls away is not the tree itself, but the proof that it is still alive, still cycling, still transforming toward the next season. And maybe you've noticed how endings cluster. It rarely comes as just one chain. When one piece of your old self dies, it pulls on the threads of the whole tapestry. The job dissolves and suddenly friendships unravel. The relationship shifts and suddenly your daily routine collapses. It is as though the universe refuses to let you carry fragments of the old life into the new. At first it feels cruel. Why strip me of everything at once? But in truth, it is mercy. It is efficiency. You are not meant to rebuild the same house brick by brick. You are meant to step into an entirely new landscape, free from the architecture of the old. If you pay attention, you'll see how the repetition in your life is a teacher. That same argument you keep having with different people, that same disappointment that circles back in different forms. It is not the world punishing you. It is the world mirroring you. Each recurrence is the echo of a lesson, a final chance to witness it, bless it, and let it go. If you ignore it, it will repeat louder. If you resist it, it will cling tighter. But if you face it with open eyes and say, I see you, I thank you, and I release you, the pattern dissolves. Endings are stubborn until you bless them. And here is the paradox. The very moments that feel like collapse are the proof of your rising. A tower only falls because its foundation can no longer hold the size of what you are becoming. You are not collapsing because you are weak. You are collapsing because you have grown too vast for the structures that once sustained you. Like a snake outgrowing its skin, you rub against the edges of your old life until it tears. It is uncomfortable, it is vulnerable, but it is the only way to expand. I want you to notice how your body already knows this. The exhaustion you feel is not laziness. It is resistance to the old, the bursts of clarity, the sudden inspiration that floods you in quiet moments. Those are previews of the new. Your very cells are whispering. It is time to release. It is time to remember. It is time to become. Your old self cannot carry you any further. Its purpose is complete, and the more you cling, the heavier it becomes. So what do you do when you are standing at this threshold? You surrender, not in defeat, but in trust. You stop wrestling the ending and begin listening to what it is asking of you. Sometimes it will ask you to speak a truth you've been silencing. Sometimes it will ask you to walk away from something you've been forced. Sometimes it will simply ask you to rest, to let the old self dissolve in stillness instead of struggle. The form does not matter. What matters is the release. And I must remind you, this is not a gentle invitation you can casually accept or decline. This is an initiation. Life does not ask politely when it is time for you to evolve. It shakes, it breaks, it strips away until you can no longer pretend. That is why you feel the urgency. That is why it feels as though you are being pushed to the edge, because you are standing at the line between who you were and who you are becoming. And the edge is not here to destroy you. It is here to teach you to fly. So do not cling. Do not numb yourself back to sleep. Do not mistake the endings as loss. See them as the proof that you are in motion, the evidence that you are chosen for the shift. Every collapse is a doorway. Every loss is a liberation. You are not being stripped of safety. You are being prepared for freedom. And if you feel everything in your life trembling, collapsing, or dissolving, do not resist it. This is not the end of you. This is the end of who you are no longer meant to be. And the urgency is simple. Step forward. Trust the unraveling. Let the old self die so the truth of you can rise. This is not destruction. This is destiny calling. This is happening because the old mask can no longer contain the size of your soul. You've already felt it. That quiet dissonance when you say words you no longer believe. That strange emptiness in the places where pleasure once satisfied you but now only leaves an aftertaste of hollowness. The identity you once wore like armor is thinning, cracking, tearing apart. You can no longer fit inside the version of yourself you built to survive. It is not wrong, it is not failure. It is simply over. The roles, the patterns, the stories you once wrapped yourself in did their job. They are no longer who you are. Think about how a costume once made you feel powerful when you were a child. You wore it, you played inside of it. You even believed it gave you strength. But imagine putting it on now as an adult. Tight, suffocating, absurd. That is your old self. It was real once. It carried you through seasons of becoming. But now, it shrinks against you. And every time you try to squeeze back into it, it tears. And that tearing is what you have been mistaking for pain, for breakdown, for loss. But it is not the truth of you that is breaking. It is the mask. The paradox is that what feels like collapse is really expansion. Your soul has grown too vast for the container you once placed it in. Just like water poured into a cup that begins to overflow, your essence has outgrown the shape of who you thought you were. The cup is shattering, not because you are broken, but because you cannot be confined. And the question is no longer, why is this happening to me? The question is, will I allow my soul to expand beyond the walls of this mask? Look at your daily life. Notice the conversations where you feel a sudden boredom, a disconnection, a sense of going through the motion. Notice the places you show up and feel smaller than yourself, quieter than yourself, dimmer than yourself. That dull ache is not depression. It is the signal of falseness. It is your inner being tugging at the seams, saying, this version of me no longer matches who I am, and you know it. You felt it in your chest, in your gut, in the restless thoughts before sleep. The old ways of speaking, of pretending, of agreeing just to belong, they taste bitter now. The old pleasures, the ones that once made you feel alive, now pass too quickly, leaving only the echo of emptiness. It is not that life has lost its flavor. It is that you have outgrown the old diet of distraction. This is why the mask must fall. Masks are useful in certain moments. They protect, they hide, they shield, but they are not meant to be worn forever. They suffocate when you forget they are temporary. The identity you crafted, the achiever, the pleaser, the caretaker, the rebel, whatever face you wore to survive, served you once. It allowed you to navigate the terrain of your old reality, but the cost of wearing it now is too high. Every time you put it on, you feel that quiet grief, the sense that you are betraying yourself in subtle ways, and the longer you hold it, the louder the ache becomes, until it feels unbearable. That is why it cracks, not because you are weak, but because your truth is too strong to be hidden anymore. And maybe this is why you feel a strange grief without a name. You can't quite explain it, but there is a warring inside you. It is the death of the mask. The ego feels it as loss, because the ego believes the mask was you, but your soul knows better. It knows that what dies is only the costume, never the essence. The paradox is that to grow into your true self, you must first let the false self fall. You must let the mask die so the face behind it can finally breathe. Imagine trying to wear clothes 3 sizes too small. The fabric pinches, restricts, suffocates. At first you tolerate it, convincing yourself it still fits. You endure the discomfort because you are afraid to let it go. But eventually the seams split. That is what is happening now. The mask no longer fits. Every false smile, every forced agreement, every habit you keep just because it's familiar, is tearing at the seams. It cannot hold you, and the breaking is not a mistake. It is liberation. And if you listen closely, you'll realize that life has already been conspiring to remove the mask. Opportunities you once would have leapt at now vanish. People you used to resonate with drift away. Circumstances arise that force you to reveal more of yourself, even when you resist. Every inconvenience, every closed door, every sudden shift is the universe's way of saying, the mask is finished. The truth must emerge. The very things you call obstacles are initiations. They are pressure points that reveal who you really are beneath the surface. You might be afraid that without the mask, you won't belong. You might fear that people will no longer recognize you, that you will lose the relationships, the approval, the stability you've built around that false identity. And some of that may be true. Some will not recognize, some will fall away. But here is the paradox. The ones who leave are not rejecting you. They are rejecting the mask they were attached to. And in their absence, the ones who resonate with your truth will appear. The space left by endings is the invitation for alignment. Do not mourn the mask as though it was your essence. Thank it. Bless it. It was never a lie. It was a tool. It kept you safe until you were ready to stand in your own skin. But you cannot keep wearing it. To cling to it now is to suffocate your expansion. Every time you try to silence your truth, just to keep the peace, every time you force yourself into roles you have already outgrown, you feel the weight of that suffocation, the tension, the exhaustion, the ache of inauthenticity. That is the cost of the mask, and the time has come to stop paying it. This is why your soul pushes you into discomfort. This is why things that once felt safe now feel unbearable. It is not cruelty. It is mercy. If the mask was still comfortable, you would never remove it. But by making it too small, too heavy, too suffocating, life ensures that you cannot remain trapped. The breaking you feel is the blessing. The very discomfort you resist is the hand of destiny pulling you out of disguise. So when you feel the tearing, don't rush to sew the seam. Don't patch the mask. Don't rebuild what was only meant to fall away. Stand in the rawness of your own face, unmasked, even if it feels terrifying, because only there in the nakedness of your truth can your destiny meet you. The urgency is clear. Let it fall. Let the mask die so the soul can live. Your old self was never meant to last forever. Its only role was to carry you to this threshold. And now that you are here, the choice is simple. Step forward unmasked, or remain suffocated by what was never truly you. This is not destruction. This is the unveiling. This is the moment where your soul emerges, too vast, too luminous, too real to ever be hidden again. You are not breaking down, you are breaking open. And though the mind insists on calling it chaos, the soul knows better. Every tear that falls, every moment of confusion, every sleepless night is not proof of your weakness. It is the sound of the shell cracking. It is the rhythm of emergence. Just as a seed must split apart before a tree can rise from the soil, so must you. The seed does not resist the breaking. It surrenders to it because within that rupture lies the code of its destiny. The same is true for you. The very places you feel like you are collapsing are the places where you are expanding, where the truth that has always been inside you is finally pressing outward, demanding to be born into the open air. It feels disorienting because the old self calls it death. The ego believes that the end of its illusions is the end of you. But the paradox is that what dies is only the false self, the costume stitched together from other people's expectations, from survival patterns, from roles you thought you had to play. That is what is breaking down, not the essence of you. Your essence has been untouchable all along, eternal, whole, waiting patiently for the day when the outer shell would grow too tight to contain it. And here you are, standing in that moment. The cracking you fear is not your undoing, it is the revelation of what has always been hidden. Notice how life conspires to bring you into this breaking. The job that once gave you identity suddenly crumbles. The relationship that once defined you begins to fracture. The structures you leaned on for stability fall away, and in the middle of it, you panic, thinking you are losing everything. But can you see the larger pattern? These structures are not life itself. They are scaffolding. They were never meant to be permanent. They were meant to hold you until you had the strength to stand on your own truth. When the building inside you is ready, the scaffolding must fall, and though it feels like collapse, it is actually completion. Think about the moments in your life when things seemed to shatter, and yet later, you saw how those very shatterings were gateways. The heartbreak that emptied you made space for a love more aligned. The loss that devastated you taught you the strength you never knew you had. The failure that humiliated you redirected you toward a path that would have been invisible otherwise. Again and again, what felt like breaking was really opening. That is the paradox. That is the wisdom of the soul. What your mind calls destruction, your spirit calls rebirth. Do you see how even your body mirrors this truth? The wound heals by tearing first, by opening the skin to release the infection. Muscles grow not from comfort but from breaking their fibers so they can rebuild stronger. The breath itself is a cycle of dying and being reborn. Each exhale a letting go, each inhale a new beginning. Every system of life whispers the same truth to you. Breaking is not the end. It is the doorway. To resist it is to stay trapped in a shell that no longer fits. To surrender to it is to step into the infinite. And maybe you feel raw now. Maybe your emotions flood you with such intensity that you think something is wrong with you. But nothing is wrong. The rawness is your truest self, without the armor. The shell numbed you, muted you, contained. Without it, everything feels amplified. The joy is brighter, the sorrow sharper, the silence louder. It overwhelms you because you are not used to feeling so much. Yet this is not weakness. This is aliveness. This is what it means to live unshielded. The paradox is that your vulnerability is your strength. The very openness you fear is the channel through which your power flows. Do not rush to fix the breaking. Do not tape the shell back together. Too many people waste years trying to rebuild the prison that once held them, mistaking it for safety. But what you called safety was suffocation. What you called stability was stagnation. You are not here to patch the old structure. You are here to rise beyond it. Every time you try to mend what is meant to be released, you delay your own becoming. Trust the breaking. Let it finish its work. You may wonder, but who will I be without the shell, without the mask, without the structures I've relied on? And the answer is the paradox you've always known but never dared to believe. You will not become someone new. You will remember who you already are. You are not in the process of invention. You are in the process of revelation. The self that is emerging is not foreign. It is familiar in a way that feels both ancient and brand new. It is the face you carried before the world taught you to hide it. It is the voice you silenced to belong. It is the dream you tucked away because it seemed too impossible. And now, as the old self cracks, those forgotten truths are rising back to the surface. There is urgency in this, because the breaking will not wait for your permission. Life has already chosen this moment. You cannot rewind into the comfort of the old. You cannot shrink back into a shell that is already split. You can only decide whether to resist the opening or to step through it. And the cost of resistance is suffering. The cost of surrender is freedom. Remember this. The seed never knows what the tree will look like. In the darkness of the soil, the cracking feels like death. But in truth, it is the only way to life. You are that seed. The darkness you feel is not abandonment. It is incubation. The soil is not a grave. It is a womb. And the cracking is not your end. It is your birth. If you can see this, if you can trust this, you will stop fearing the breaking. You will begin to honor it as sacred. So let yourself break open. Let the tears flow. Let the confusion disorient you. Let the shell crumble. This is not the moment to hold yourself together. This is the moment to fall apart, so that something larger can come through. The collapse is not against you. It is for you. It is the universe insisting that the smaller version of yourself step aside, so the greater one can rise. Do not resist it. Do not numb it. Do not try to glue the fragments back together. Stand in the rawness, in the trembling, in the holy chaos. For this is how the true self emerges. You are not breaking down. You are breaking open. And in that opening lies the doorway to everything you were always meant to become. This is why your relationships are shifting. You've noticed it already, haven't you? The conversations that once lit you up now feel hollow, as if you are mouthing the same words but your spirit is no longer inside them. The people who once felt like home now feel like echoes of a version of you that no longer exists. Some friends drift without explanation. Some family members no longer understand you. Some connections that were once unshakable suddenly fracture under the weight of silence. At first you call it loss. At first you think something is wrong with you. But listen closely. Nothing is wrong. This is resonance recalibrating. This is the natural shifting of frequencies as your soul expands into a higher rhythm that the old connections cannot match. It feels confusing because the old self thought belonging was everything. You built an identity out of approval, out of the comfort of being understood, out of the safety of being surrounded. And now, as that self dissolves, you feel the sting of solitude. But the paradox is this: the very aloneness you fear is the passageway into true connection. For when you cling to what no longer resonates, you do not belong. You betray. You betray the self that is emerging in order to keep company with the selves you have already outgrown. The ache you feel in your chest when you leave a conversation drained instead of nourished. When you smile though you feel unseen. When you hold on to a relationship that no longer expands you, that ache is your soul saying, "This is not where I live anymore." Do not mistake the fading of relationships as rejection. It is not that they are wrong, or that you are better, or that you must condemn what you once loved. It is simply that the frequency has changed. Imagine a radio station shifting its signal. Those tuned to the old frequency will not hear you clearly anymore. Their words will sound like static, and yours will sound the same to them. It is not malice. It is misalignment. And the worst thing you can do is try to shrink yourself back down to the old frequency just so you can be heard. That is how you abandon yourself. That is how you miss the initiation. Notice instead who does expand you. Notice who leaves you feeling lighter after speaking, who reminds you of your wholeness, who makes you forget the mask entirely. These are the mirrors of your emerging self. They may not be many. In fact, at first, they may be none. That is why the in-between feels so lonely. It is the desert between two worlds. The old companions fading and the new companions not yet arrived. Do not panic in this desert. Do not run back to what has ended simply to fill the silence. For the silence is holy. The desert is sacred. In the emptiness, your soul is rewiring itself to attract only those who can meet it where it truly is. If you skip the silence, you skip the realignment. and yet the old self trembles in the loneliness. It tells you, without them, you will be nothing. Without them, you will have no one. But this is a lie born of fear. The paradox is that when you finally accept solitude, when you allow yourself to walk alone rather than cling to what has expired, the right tribe begins to appear. Not because you searched harder, but because you allowed your vibration to stabilize without compromise. Then, as naturally as breath, those who match your new frequency find you, drawn not to the mask you wore but to the essence you are. Think of it this way. The relationships of your old self were often built on exchange, what you gave, what you received, what you pretended, what you tolerate. They were built on the version of you who needed to be liked, who needed to belong at any cost, who would dim their light so others could feel comfortable. But the relationships of your emerging self will be built on resonance. They will not require performance. They will not require shrinking. They will feel like breathing, effortless, natural, alive. And to reach them, you must let go of the ones that require you to pretend. Do you see how the very relationships falling away are teaching you this? Each goodbye is not punishment, but liberation. Each person who no longer understands you is a teacher reminding you to understand yourself. Each disconnection is not the universe taking something away. It is the universe clearing space for alignment. Even the heartbreak, even the betrayal, even the sudden endings you never saw coming are part of this purification. They are chiseling away the attachments that kept you bound to the mask. They are removing what cannot walk with you into your next chapter. And though it hurts, remember that love itself is never lost. The form changes, the chapter ends, but the love that once flowed still lives inside you, woven into your becoming. You do not need to hate the ones who fall away to move forward. You only need to bless them, thank them for walking with you as far as they could, and release them into their own path. Anything else is clinging to a door that has already closed. There will be moments when the loneliness feels unbearable, when the silence echoes so loudly that you want to run back to the familiar, even if it costs you your truth. But hear me clearly. This is the initiation. The silence is not abandonment. It is preparation. You are being stripped of false belonging so you can learn true belonging. You are being weaned from external approval so you can root into your own authenticity. Only when you can stand alone without collapsing will you be ready to stand together in the new way, with those who see you, not the mask. And so I tell you, the fading of relationships is not a tragedy. It is a recalibration. It is life tuning you to the right frequency. It is the universe saying, do not cling, do not force. Trust what falls away, because what is leaving is what no longer matches your becoming, and what is arriving is what will honor it. The urgency is this. Do not delay your emergence by holding on to what is dissolving. Do not shrink yourself back into resonance with what you have already transcended. If you do, you will only feel the weight of suffocation grow heavier. Trust instead. Trust that solitude is not the absence of connection, but the preparation for deeper connection. Trust that what is fading is clearing the way. Trust that the tribe aligned with your truth will meet you when you are ready to meet yourself. This is not rejection. This is alignment. This is not loss. This is destiny rearranging your circle so that you no longer walk in disguise. And the moment you accept this, the moment you bless what is fading instead of clinging to it, you step fully into the resonance of your own becoming. And this is why your body is changing too. Why sensations arise that seem unexplainable. Why fatigue comes and goes in waves. Why your sleep shifts. Why emotions surge like sudden storms only to vanish into stillness. It is not random, and it is not weakness. It is the vessel adjusting to carry more light, more frequency, more presence than it was ever asked to hold before. Your body, this sacred home you often took for granted, is not betraying you. It is becoming new. It is rewiring, recalibrating, realigning to match the consciousness that now pulses through it. You thought transformation was only of the mind, of belief, of perspective. But the paradox is that as your awareness ascends, your cells must follow, because the soul cannot expand without the body responding. And yes, it is uncomfortable. At times it feels like your body cannot keep up. as though your nervous system is a fragile thread stretched to its breaking point. But this is only the old circuitry burning out, the patterns of survival unraveling, the density dissolving so a finer energy can inhabit your form. You may feel aches in places with no injury, pressure in your chest as though something vast is trying to breathe through you, waves of heat or chills that no diagnosis can explain. These are not signs of illness but of emergence. This is your body remembering it was never separate from the soul, only conditioned to carry less than what it was made for. Notice how the sensations come in cycles. There are days when your energy feels boundless, when synchronicities flow effortlessly, when your very skin seems to hum. And then there are days when exhaustion drapes over you, when even small tasks feel monumental, when your only impulse is to rest. This rhythm is not failure, it is integration. Expansion requires rest, just as the tide requires its ebb. You cannot demand constant ascension without surrendering to the pauses that make the rise sustainable. The body knows this better than the mind. It collapses your plans not to punish you, but to protect you from burning out in your own becoming. And yet the old self panics. It whispers, something must be wrong. You are falling behind. You are weaker than before. But the truth is the opposite. What looks like weakness is strength in disguise. For only a strong vessel dares to dismantle itself so it can be rebuilt. Only a resilient system would allow itself to crack open so the light can rewire it from within. You are not failing. You are evolving. You are not sick. You are shedding. You are not breaking. You are being remade. Do you see how even your cravings change? Foods you once tolerated now leave you heavy, while lighter nourishment suddenly calls to you. Your taste, your digestion, even the way water feels as it enters your body begins to shift. This too is alignment. Your vessel is becoming sensitive, not as fragility but as refinement. You are learning to listen, to feel what supports you and what drags you down. And as you listen, you notice that the body does not lie. Where the mind may rationalize, the body only responds. It contracts when something is false. It softens when something is true. It is the most honest compass you have, and now it is awakening to guide you more clearly than ever. The paradox of embodiment is that while the soul is infinite, it chose to anchor here, in this fragile yet miraculous container of flesh and bone. The body is not a prison, but a port. Every breath, every sensation, every heartbeat is a reminder that the infinite took form to experience itself through limitation. And now, as you ascend, you are not escaping the body, you are transfiguring it. Spirit is not leaving matter, it is saturating matter. Light is not fleeing density, it is permeating density. This is why the discomfort comes, not because you are leaving your body, but because you are finally arriving fully inside it. So when the fatigue comes, bless it. When the waves of emotion rise, welcome them. When the aches arrive without reason, honor them, for they are signs of the rewiring. They are evidence that you are not standing still, that the shift is real, that the unseen is making itself known in the only language the body can speak. And if you listen without fear, you will notice that even in the discomfort, there is a strange peace, a quiet assurance beneath it all that whispers, this is necessary, this is sacred, this is the becoming. And yes, there will be days when you long for the old body, the one that seemed predictable, the one that didn't demand so much rest or sensitivity. But remember, that body carried the old self, and you are no longer that. Would you truly want to return to numbness, to heaviness, to carrying frequencies that could not hold your truth? What is asked of you now is to trust the intelligence of your form, to honor it as the sacred ally it is. The body is not lagging behind. It is leading, in its own language, teaching you to slow down, to listen, to surrender. The urgency is this: do not resist the changes, do not numb them, do not fight them, do not shame yourself for needing more rest, more space, more care. The more you resist, the more painful the process becomes. The more you surrender, the more graceful the unfolding feels. And when you surrender, you will notice something else: the beauty within the strangeness, the way your body glows after a deep rest, the way a single glass of water feels like liquid light, the way your breath carries you into presence without effort. These are glimpses of the new embodiment, subtle, luminous, undeniable. So trust this holy recalibration. Trust that your body knows what your mind cannot yet grasp. Trust that the fatigue, the shifts, the sensations are not obstacles, but initiations. You are not being diminished. You are being prepared. You are not losing vitality. You are gaining capacity. And though it feels unfamiliar now, you will look back and see that every ache was a doorway, every wave was a teacher, every collapse was a chrysalis. You are not just a soul awakening, you are a body awakening. You are not just ascending beyond matter, you are bringing matter with you into light. And that is the mystery too great for the mind to hold but perfect for the body to embody. The vessel is not your enemy, it is your and the more you honor it, the more it reveals its true nature, not fragile, not failing, but infinitely adaptable, infinitely wise, infinitely capable of carrying the frequency of your becoming. And now you find yourself noticing something that once seemed impossible to explain. Something you may have dismissed as coincidence, but which now arrives too often, too precisely, to ignore. Patterns, signs, alignments that line up as though the entire universe were conspiring to whisper to you, yes, you are on the path. You see repeating numbers on clocks. You hear the same phrase from two strangers in the same day. You dream of something only to encounter it the next morning. This is not the random play of chance. This is reality rearranging itself to catch your attention. The old self believed life was linear, mechanical, predictable. The new self is beginning to recognize life as a living conversation, one in which everything is symbolic, everything is a mirror, everything is a response to the vibration you carry. And so the signs arrive not as entertainment but as guidance. They are not toys for curiosity but confirmations of direction. They come precisely when doubt begins to creep in, when you question whether the transformation is real, when fatigue or fear clouds your sight, and then suddenly a symbol appears, small, perhaps, but undeniable, a feather on your path, a stranger saying the exact words you needed, a song on the radio answering a question you whispered in silence. This is how spirit reassures you, not with thunderous declarations, but with gentle threads, woven so delicately into your days that only the attentive heart will notice. And you, right now, are becoming attentive. The paradox is that these synchronicities were always there, but you did not yet have the eyes to see. The old self filtered them out, dismissing them as meaningless, but the shift has made you porous, open, receptive. Now, instead of being drowned in noise, you are beginning to hear the hidden music. Life has always been speaking. You are just now remembering how to listen. And the urgency here is this. Do not treat these signs as background noise. They are not accidental. They are invitation. Each one is a doorway. Each one is an affirmation that the invisible world is interwoven with the visible one, that you are supported, guided, carried in ways the mind cannot measure. Notice how, when the old self was alive, you believed yourself isolated, left to make choices blindly, fumbling through uncertainty. But now the new self sees that you are never alone, never unguided, never without signals pointing you home. The synchronicities are not external. They are extensions of you. Reality itself bends to the resonance you emit. What you see around you is the reflection, what stirs within you. When you carry fear, the outer world reflects fear back. When you embody love, love is mirrored everywhere. This is why the signs appear more often as you shift. They are the mirror of your awakening, showing you in symbols what is too vast for words. And yet it is so easy to dismiss them, to think, I imagined it, it's just my mind making pattern. But understand this, your mind noticing the pattern is the miracle itself. For what is a miracle, except the collapse of randomness into meaning? What is guidance except your own consciousness, aligning with the deeper intelligence of the cosmos? You are not making it up. You are waking up to what was already present. And when you honor it, when you lean into it, more of it appears. Life rewards attention with revelation. Spirit responds to trust with clarity. The more you say yes to the signs, the more clearly the path unfolds beneath your feet. This is why it is dangerous to ignore them, to brush them aside as trivial, for they are not trivial. They are the language of the shift. The old self looked for answers only in books, in logic, in authority outside of itself. But the new self is guided by the whispers of existence itself, by the way the wind moves, by the way a conversation aligns, by the way timing becomes impossible to deny. This is your initiation into a life not of control but of co-creation, not of blind wandering but of attuned participation. The universe is not silent. It sings to you every day, and the question is, will you hear? And perhaps the strangest realization of all is that you begin to trust these signs more than the evidence of the world. You begin to trust the invisible more than the visible, the subtle more than the obvious. A number repeating on a clock can bring you more assurance than a plan written on paper. A sudden feeling in your chest can guide you more accurately than hours of analysis. This is the paradox. What appears intangible proves to be the most reliable compass, and this is where the old self truly begins to die, for it cannot survive in a reality where the unseen holds more weight than the seen. Do not think this is superstition. Superstition is fear attaching meaning where there is none, but this is not fear. This is resonance. This is not clinging to symbols out of desperation, but recognizing symbols as the natural echo of your vibration. When you walk in harmony, the outer world harmonizes. When you resist, the outer world resists back. Synchronicity is not manipulation. It is reflection. It is the universe holding a mirror so you can see the alignment of your inner-outer worlds. So when the next sign arrives, pause. When you see that number, when you hear that phrase, when you stumble upon that chance encounter, pause. Ask not, is this real? But rather, what is this revealing? For the answer will not always come immediately, but it will come. Sometimes the sign is a seed planted in your awareness, only to bloom weeks later in perfect clarity. Sometimes the sign is a reassurance that requires no action, only trust. Sometimes it is a call to pivot, to move, to step into the unknown with faith. All of it is guidance, and all of it is precise. The urgency is that this is how the new reality communicates. If you ignore the language of synchronicity, you risk staying deaf to the very guidance you prayed for. If you wait for certainty before you trust, you will wait forever. But if you dare to trust the subtle signs, you will discover that certainty was never external. It was always born from within. You are not just witnessing coincidences. You are co-creating them. You are not merely noticing patterns, you are weaving them. You are not being played with by the universe. You are being partnered with by it. Every sign is proof that you are in conversation with the infinite. Every synchronicity is proof that your old self is dissolving, because only the new self can recognize that life itself is alive, responsive, intelligent. So let this be your initiation. Trust the signs. Follow them not blindly but attentively. Lean into the rhythm that is unfolding. Do not dismiss what your heart knows is sacred, simply because your mind cannot explain it. For explanation belongs to the old self, but recognition belongs to the new. And the more you recognize, the more you will realize that you are not moving through life randomly. You are being danced through it. You are not stumbling in darkness. You are being led by sparks of light, only visible to those who dare to see. And you, chosen one, are seeing now. And that sight is not madness. It is the beginning of wisdom. It is the way the old dies and the new is born. It is your role in the collective shift, to become a witness and a translator of the hidden language of the cosmos. The universe speaks, and now finally, you are listening. And now comes the revelation that may unsettle you the most, for it touches what you once held closest, what you thought defined you more than anything else, your relationships, your attachments, the circles you once called home. You may have already begun to notice it, how certain people feel more distant now, not because of conflict, not because of anger, but simply because the energy no longer matches. Conversations that once felt easy now feel heavy. Spaces you once craved now drain you. You may even feel guilt rising, because the old self was trained to equate loyalty with stagnation, to cling even when the soul whispered it was time to release. But you are not betraying anyone. You are honoring the truth that your soul is no longer where it was, and so the connections formed from that version of you cannot remain unchanged. This is the paradox of awakening. You are expanding into more connection with the whole, but in that expansion you are released from certain bonds that no longer serve the flow of your becoming. It is not rejection, it is alignment. It is not abandonment, it is evolution. For every connection you outgrow, another rises to meet the new frequency you carry. And you will notice this too, how unexpected souls appear in your path, strangers who feel like ancient companions, conversations that feel like doors opening into dimensions you always knew existed, but never dared to speak of. This is the universe's way of saying, you are not losing, you are exchanging, and yet the pain is real. For the old self clings, fearing emptiness if it lets go. It whispers, what if I am left alone? What if no one understands me? What if I lose everyone I love? But here is the truth. You cannot lose what is meant for you. You cannot outgrow those who are willing to grow with you. And those who cannot, those who resist, those who mock, those who pull you back, they are not enemies, but teachers, showing you how much courage it takes to honor your path, even when others do not walk it with you. This is the refinement of love, not the sentimental kind that clings, but the fierce kind that releases, trusting that real love is not possession but permission. Have you noticed how even silence feels different now? With some, silence feels heavy, awkward, forced. With others, silence feels like communion, a wordless harmony. This is your soul discerning resonance. It is no longer interested in appearances, in surface talk, in masks. It longs for depth, for authenticity, for truth. And so those who cannot meet you there naturally fall away, not by cruelty but by gravity. The shift rearranges your connections so that only those who vibrate at your frequency remain close. And this is how the new reality sustains itself, not by force, but by resonance. And here is where destiny calls, for your transformation is not private, it ripples outward. Every choice you make to honor your truth sends waves into the collective field. Every boundary you set, every connection you release, every new soul you welcome becomes part of the great reweaving of humanity itself. You may think your relationships are personal, but they are cosmic, for they determine what frequencies are strengthened in the web of existence. When you say no to what drains you, you are saying yes to a reality where truth can breathe. When you say yes to what uplifts you, you are anchoring that resonance for all. Do not be afraid of the loneliness that sometimes comes with this. Loneliness is the empty space the universe clears before it fills it with new companions. Loneliness is not absence. It is preparation. It is the womb of future connection. And if you can sit in it without rushing to fill it with what is familiar but false, you will witness how quickly it transforms into belonging, into meeting those who mirror your soul, not your mask. This is the urgency. Do not run back to the old simply because the new has not yet arrived. The gap is sacred. The in-between is holy. It is in the pause between relationships that you find your own center, your own wholeness, so that you no longer enter connections from hunger but from fullness. And when the new ones come, and they will, you will know them by the way your heart exhales in their presence, by the way your being feels seen without performance, by the way laughter arises without effort, by the way silence sings. These are your soul companions, your allies in the shift, the ones with whom you will build the new reality, and you will recognize them not by appearance, not by background, not by status, but by resonance alone. For in this new reality, resonance is the only currency, the only truth, the only compass, and perhaps most beautiful of all, you may discover that even those you thought you lost are not truly lost. Some will circle back, transformed in their own timing, ready now to meet you where you are. Others will remain in the background of your story, not as villains but as necessary chapters that carried you to this threshold. All serve their purpose. None were wasted. And when you look back, you will see that every connection, whether it endured or ended, was a thread in the weaving of your becoming. So do not fear the shifting of relationships. Do not cling to the old out of guilt, nor reject the new out of mistrust. Walk with openness, with courage, with discernment. The old self needed crowds to feel safe. The new self knows that even one soul aligned is more nourishing than 1,000 who are not. This is not about numbers. It is about frequency. And as you hold that truth, you will find that you are never truly alone, for the resonance of the whole universe is with you, guiding you to those who belong in your field. This is your role in the collective shift, to model a new way of connection, one rooted not in fear but in truth, not in obligation but in resonance, not in clinging but in freedom. And the paradox is this: as you release, you discover you were never separate. As you let go, you find you were never abandoned. As you step away from what no longer aligns, you step into the arms of a deeper belonging than you ever imagined. So trust the flow of relationships as part of your transformation. Trust the arrivals, the departures, the pause. Trust that your soul is weaving connections beyond what your mind can comprehend, and walk forward, knowing that every bond, every meeting, every goodbye is sacred. For it is through relationship that the old self dies, and it is through relationship that the new self is born. And now we arrive at the threshold of the final unveiling, where the threads of everything you have experienced, everything you have felt shifting within you, weave together into one undeniable truth. You are not becoming someone else. You are remembering what you already are. The old self, the one clinging to labels, roles, fears, and definitions, is not dying because you are losing anything real. It is dying because it was never the truth of you. It was the costume, the scaffolding, the temporary mask you wore to navigate a world asleep. And now that you are waking, the mask cannot remain. You are not here to create a new identity. You are here to dissolve into the vastness of your original essence, the self before the world told you who to be. This is why so much feels like unraveling. The roles you once played, dutiful child, reliable friend, quiet dreamer, overachiever, caretaker, survivor, these identities served you once, but they were never the fullness of your being. And as they crumble, you may feel naked, uncertain, exposed. Yet beneath that exposure lies liberation. For every layer that falls away reveals the brilliance of the soul that has always been beneath. You are not less without the mask. You are infinitely more. The paradox is that what dies is illusion, and what is born is reality. What falls away is the constructed self, and what emerges is the eternal one. And perhaps you wonder, if I am already this, why must it feel so hard to remember? Why must I walk through fire, through loneliness, through disorientation? Because forgetting was part of the journey, and so remembering must come through contrast. You cannot know light until you have wandered through darkness. You cannot feel wholeness until you have tasted fragmentation. You cannot reclaim your infinite essence until you have lived the limitations of the small self. The old self dies not to punish you, but to teach you that you were never truly bound by it. And in the moment of its death, you are reborn, not as someone different, but as who you always were. Have you noticed how time feels strange now? How days stretch and collapse? How hours vanish? How moments expand? This is because the new self no longer lives in the rigid cage of clock and calendar. It tastes eternity even in a breath. It senses that past and future fold into the now, that the only real moment is this one. The old self needed plans, timelines, deadlines. The new self flows in trust, in rhythm, in divine timing. This too is part of the death and rebirth. You are not simply changing habits. You are stepping outside the old architecture of time itself, into the fluid dance of presence. And yet do not misunderstand, this rebirth is not about perfection. It is not about never faltering, never feeling fear, never forgetting again. The new self is not flawless. It is whole. Wholeness means you carry the shadows too, but they no longer bind you. You see them, you embrace them, you let them pass through without shame. The old self fragmented you into good and bad, success and failure, worthy and unworthy. The new self holds it all in one embrace and says, even this belongs. This is the deeper liberation, not escaping your humanity, but embodying divinity through it. And with this realization comes responsibility. For to awaken is not just to enjoy new clarity, it is to live it. You are being called to embody what you have remembered, to walk differently, to speak differently, to choose differently. You cannot return to sleep without suffering, for now that you know, Pretending not to know will burn you. You must honor the truth you have glimpsed, or the weight of denial will crush you faster than ignorance ever did. This is why the shift feels urgent, why you cannot go back, why the old self feels suffocating now. You have tasted freedom, and nothing else will satisfy, and so destiny beckons. Not destiny as a fixed script, but destiny is the flowering of your essence, the unique expression of the infinite through you. The world does not need you to copy another's path, to mimic another's voice, to live another's dream. The world needs your precise vibration, your exact note in the symphony of creation. The death of the old self is what makes room for that note to sound clear, unmasked, unmute. And when you live it, when you dare to embody it fully, you become a lighthouse for others still wandering in the storm of forgetting. You do not need to preach. You do not need to convince. Your presence itself becomes transmission. Your life itself becomes initiation. Do you see now why you were chosen to hear this? Because the collective shift depends on individuals like you choosing not to turn away, not to numb, not to cling to the crumbling illusions, but to step boldly into remembrance. Every soul who awakens accelerates the awakening of countless others. Every mask that falls reveals a light that ignites 1,000 more. Your transformation is not only personal, it is planetary. The death of your old self is part of the rebirth of the world. And so I say to you, do not delay, do not wait for permission, for validation, for certainty. The path will not become clear before you step. It becomes clear because you step. Do not cling to the fragments of an identity already dissolving. Let it fall, let it burn, let it die with grace. For on the other side is the self you have longed for, the self that was never absent, only veiled. You are not stepping into the unknown. You are stepping into the known that you had forgotten. You are not losing your life, you are reclaiming it. This is your sacred initiation to walk forward as the one you have always been, unmasked, unbound, undivided, to embody the paradox that you are both infinite and human, both eternal and fleeting, both nothing and everything, to live in the world but not be confined by it, to love without possession, to serve without sacrifice, to shine without fear. The old self has served its purpose. Honor it, release it, thank it for bringing you here, and then step beyond it, into the vastness waiting to embrace you. The time is now. The invitation is here. Your old self is already dissolving. The question is whether you will resist the death or surrender to the birth. Do not skip this moment. Do not turn away. Step through, for this is not the end. It is the beginning. So hear me clearly. Your old self is about to die. If these signs are unfolding in you, it is not an accident. It is initiation. Don't skip this moment. Don't bury it under routine. Step across the threshold. Release what is fading. Trust the cracking. Honor the hunger. You are chosen to awaken in this lifetime, and the only thing left is your yes.